kitties. Distracting, adorable kitties. Take a look at that, people, because that's the last cute thing you're probably going to see before we dive into the world of Mewtwo's Desire. Pokemon. Oh yes, Pokemon can be really adorable too. But this fanfic right here is far from adorable. Now, for my own sake and for Susan's sake, I have put my straight blade someplace where I know I won't be able to reach for it in the case I get that urge. I'm not going to say what the urge is because I don't want to be shot 50 billion times with a phase pistol again. So Susan, if you're watching this later on, please don't attack me for mentioning it. Thanks. Today's fanfic is called Mewtwo's Desire. The author is A Wild Lucario. Let's read. It's fiction. It's in English. It's romance, angst. It's Misty / Kasumi and Mewtwo. It has 4,052 words, 63 reviews, 147 faves, 34 follows, and it was published back in 2009, and it's complete. Let's read the author's note. Misty is surprisingly met by the clone of Mew. She quickly finds out that he wants to live forever, but the only way to do that is to bear offspring. Pokemon X humans. Rapes. Lots of lemon. First one shot. Sorry about that little outburst. I just went into a major spasgasm. I'm a little surprised that they haven't left because of it, because normally they're very skittish. Be grateful you guys can understand English. Actually, I think they do somewhat. But be glad you don't understand it well enough to know what the hell I'm reading. They don't look amused. Oh, they're not going to be amused after this. Let's read. Mewtwo's Desire. I do not own Pokemon. Thank God, because if you did, you'd probably make the franchise into something like this. A rape anime. All Pokemon characters and places belong to Nintendo. This fic has deplic scenes of Pokemon X humans sex/rape. If you do not like that kind of stuff, this is not the fanfiction for you. Clearly I do not like that type of stuff, but seeing I'm the fanfic critic, I'm obligated to read it. So you can go fuck yourself. Misty pounded up the stairway, up to her room. All right, I heard you, she shouted behind herself. Just leave me alone. The female teenager continued up the stairs, trying her best to ignore the shouts and cries from her three sisters behind her. Misty tried to dull all sounds away from her ears, but it was like their voices were sharp needles that kept piercing her drum deep within her ear. She hurried her pace up to the top of the stairway, ran to the door to her room, opened it, and slammed it closed as soon as she entered. Damn it. She took a long, deep breath, trying to clam herself to... Calm, not clam. Herself down. She exhaled and locked the door behind her. Lately, Misty's sisters were driving her up the wall. They thought it would be a great idea to stop their swimming show for a couple of days and actually battle opposing trainers. Well, as it turned out, her sisters were now worse than when they were before. Battle after battle after battle, they were murdered and swept away. Younger and younger trainers kept on coming, making the three sisters even more annoyed when a low-level Pokemon knew how to get out of a bad situation than their own ill-trained Pokemon did. Since they were losing... Don't you mean losing, not loosing? Losing, so get rid of one of the O's. Let's continue. so badly, Misty was the only one the sisters could vent to. After all, she was the youngest sister, so according to the laws of sibling rivalry, the youngest gets the worst. All day and every day, Misty's sister would literally run up to her just to shout out their aggravations, annoyances, and everything at her. Okay, that's not necessarily true that the youngest always gets screams at the most when it comes to older siblings. I have my older sister, and, we don't really yell at each other much. I mean, when we were kids, she used to vent at me when she would get in trouble with, my parents, but, she wouldn't take her anger out of me. She would just, I would be the ear to listen to. I mean, I'm guessing that might be what they mean by this, but it sounds like in this case, it's just her sisters are just being bitches to her. I don't know. So let's continue. They wanted to make it seem like it was all Misty's fault, and they kept losing, losing, not loosing their battles. Is it really that hard to spell check before you post something on the internet? Apparently. How could it possibly be her fault? She isn't even the one battling. Plus, her sister's Pokemon haven't battled in years. How are all of their water Pokemon supposed to know how to fight when all they've been doing is swimming in circles? Misty sighed again. Calm down, calm down. They're gone. It's just you now, she said to herself. So she thinks. Misty closed her eyes and inhaled once more. She breathed in deeply, trying to make in all the good. Then wow, Misty had a sex change. Then she exhaled slowly, letting out all of the bad. Then she opened her eyes and screamed while nearly jumping out of her skin. There, standing in front of her, was the powerful psychic Pokemon Mewtwo. His tall, light purple body stood tall to Misty's height. Okay, if you're going to be using the word tall twice, you might as well get rid of one of them and just have to say his light purple body stood tall to Misty's height. That would make more sense. We already know that he's tall because you said his tall light purple body. Get what I mean? His dark purple tail swinging slowly from side to side behind the Pokemon. And his eyes. Misty could not look away from his deep, deep, dark purple eyes. Misty quickly caught her breath and tried to calm herself down. At least I spelled calm right this time. Mewtwo? She asked. What are you doing here? I came to see you, said the psychic Pokemon. Even though he didn't exactly speak, Mewtwo's voice was very deep and masculine. Almost manly to Misty. Okay, you just said it was deep and masculine, so of course it's going to be manly to Misty. Me? What do you need me for? Then Misty remembered her sisters. Oh no! They might have heard me scream. Quick, Mewtwo, find some place to... That will not be necessary, said Mewtwo. Misty was confused. Mewtwo must have seen her confusion, for he went ahead and explained. Before I entered this room, I placed a psychic barrier around its entire perimeter. That completely blocks all sound from being heard on the outside. Do not worry, no one can hear us. Misty let out a sigh of relief. One less thing for her to worry about. So you think. Thank you, Mewtwo. Now tell me, why did you come here? What do you need from me? Asked Misty. Mewtwo's deep, deep eyes seemed to dig deeper into Misty's mind as he stared at her. He took a step closer to Misty while never leaving her eyes. I want you to do me a favor, said Mewtwo. Misty found herself hesitating, but forced herself to trust Mewtwo and asked, What do you need me to do? Mewtwo took a step closer. Misty took a step back. I need you to give me offspring. At least this is coming across as more intelligent than Peekapoon, so I guess I can't complain too much. Misty froze. Did he just suggest what she thinks he suggested? Give you offspring? I think so, yeah. Just to make sure, she double-checked. What? Mewtwo narrowed his eyes. I need offspring. Children. From you. Misty took another step back, trying to retreat from Mewtwo's eyes. She couldn't look away from them. But, why? Why do you need kids for? Mewtwo raised up his paw and placed it over his chest. As such of a powerful Pokemon as I am not immortal. I am the last of my kind, so I am in desperate need of dissidents. Dissidents? No. It's descendants! Said Mewtwo. He placed his paw back down to his side. Misty was starting to shake. She was scared of what he could do to her. But me? Why me? Why not some other Pokemon? Some wild Pokemon? Mewtwo advanced towards her with another step. Well, she does have a good point. I mean, if he found a Ditto, he could probably do it with a Ditto. No, I can't. While I was being created, there were still so many holes in my DNA that was cloned from you. The scientists that made me fill in those holes with his own human DNA. Mating with a Pokemon would be no different than if you did. Nothing would happen. Our cells would not fuse to make the offspring I desire. I have to mate with either a human or another Mew. Then why not Mew? Asked Misty, almost begging for someone else to take her spot. I know that there has to be another Mew out there somewhere. Mewtwo sniffed. I have looked, and the only ones I can find are either male or too old to breed. Even the one that I battled with long ago is at her age to no longer reproduce. I have to mate with a human, and that human is you. Misty was starting to panic. She had to find some other way. There has to be some other way. But why me? Why not some other human? Asked Misty. Mewtwo's eyes narrowed. Was he getting annoyed? I cannot just simply go up to another human. My presence is still unknown, with the exception of you and your friends. I cannot allow for anyone else to know of my existence. Okay, that makes no sense. Well, then again, I never saw the other Pokemon movie where he returns and stuff. But if this is supposed to take place after the first Pokemon movie, he erased their memories so they wouldn't remember him. But this might be taking place after the second movie that involved, Mewtwo. And I haven't watched that, so I might be wrong. So if I am wrong, I apologize in advance. Then what about Jessie? She's a girl and she still remembers you. Even though that female does remember me and is of age, she is still a member of the organization of Team Rocket and an acquaintance of my sworn enemy, Giovanni. If I were to impregnate her, Giovanni would surely know of it and perhaps might even experiment with my own offspring. I cannot allow that to happen. Mewtwo took another step closer to Misty, then another, and another, moving slowly, and yet moving quickly towards his prey. It has to be you, for it can only be you. I am in need of offspring, and only you can give me them, repeated Mewtwo. Misty backed away until her back touched the closed door of her room. She tried to move. She tried with all of her might to look away from Mewtwo's eyes, but somehow they seemed to have her fixed right there. No, said Misty. I'm sorry, Mewtwo, but I can't do that. We humans believe that we have to fall in love with one we have sex with. It's only right. Mewtwo continued to advance towards Misty, never leaving his eyes from her. He moved forward until his nose touched hers, and when they did, he paused and continued his glaring look. I did not say it was an option, said Mewtwo. I said that I want you to do me a favor. I never did I ask for anything. Misty's hands were shaking like crazy. She couldn't believe that this Pokemon wanted so much from her. There's no way this is real. This can't be happening. He must be kidding or joking or something. Joking around or something, right? Misty fingered the doorknob since she couldn't move anything else. When she felt it, she tried to give it a twist, but it refused to move as well. Mewtwo finally moved his eyes away from Misty and watched her hands move. Trying to leave is useless. Misty choked on her own words. I'll scream. My sisters will hear me. Mewtwo looked back up into Misty's eyes again. He raised one paw and placed it on her arm. She could feel his skin rubbing against hers as he stroked her arm up and down. I told you before. I used my psychic powers to block out all sounds from escaping from this room. Scream all you want. No one will hear you. A small squeal escaped Misty's lips as she heard this and felt Mewtwo's paws move again. His paw moved over her shoulder and fingered the straps of her clothes. Slowly, trying to slide them off. I do not understand you humans, said Mewtwo, with your clothes and everything. Too much work to worry about. Misty's left shoulder strap fell down. Forgive me, but this is my first time doing this. I do believe that I must first get you to become what you humans called turned on. Also, while doing this, I must also turn on myself in the process. Maybe you can help me with that. Misty grabbed Mewtwo's paw with her hand, stopping him. Sorry, stupid pop-up on my computer. Rather annoying when you're trying to read a fanfic. I'm not doing this, Mewtwo. I said no. Mewtwo's eyes narrowed and he ripped his paw away from Misty's grasp. Then his eyes began to glow purple and Misty's body suddenly felt the odd feeling of weightlessness. She looked at herself and noticed that her body was now covered in some aurora which color matched that of Mewtwo's glowing eyes. Mewtwo lifted Misty into the air until she was about 2 feet away from him. He lifted an arm towards her, then pulled it back down, sharply. Misty's top was torn off at the speed of Mewtwo's arm, revealing her soft skin and bra. Is this person even native to this country? Oh look, it says right there that he's joining the American Army, and it also says at the bottom of his profile, God bless America. So he's clearly an American. So why did he spell bra like that? It's B-R-A. You don't need the W in the end. Jeez! Let's continue. He lifted another arm, which also was pulled back down, sharply. Just like her top, Misty's pants were ripped off her body, making her scream in fear. Mewtwo continued this pattern until all of Misty's clothes, save her bra and panties, were off. Well, if he already ripped her top and pants off, the only other thing he could have taken off were her socks, unless she's like wearing tons and tons of undergarments. Were off and on the floor somewhere, torn. Misty felt her body float through the air towards her bed. Mewtwo let Misty down softly, laying her on her own bed. She tried to move and get away, but her body felt paralyzed and frozen. All she could move were her lips and eyes, but not her teeth, so she probably looked like this. Mewtwo walked over to where she laid and slowly laid down next to her. Now, if you cooperate, this might be enjoyable. I have heard many times that this is fun and that you humans love doing this all the time, said Mewtwo, crawling next to her. Misty refused to say anything. She knew that there was nothing she can do now. Mewtwo is too powerful. It must be his psychic powers that would not let her escape. Mewtwo did not wait for her answer anyhow. He placed a paw on her belly, feeling the smoothness and softness of her amazing tan skin. Mewtwo's paw slowly slid up to Misty's bra and undid and slid underneath it. Misty squealed as she felt his rough fingers move over her breast. It scarred her. I'm assuming they meant to say it scared her. I'm not going to bother to do a screen cap because I said scarred so you guys know that it was put in wrong. Is it really that hard for people to proofread their work before they post it on the internet? Get Microsoft Word, people. It's not that hard to get. Well, then again, that probably wouldn't have shown up anyway because scarred is a word. But if you actually took the time to reread your work, possibly read it out loud before you post it online, you would probably find mistakes like this. And seeing this person is saying that they're going to be joining the army, I'm going to assume that they are an adult. And also, you know, if they're writing a rape fanfic with sex and mature themes, then they must be an adult or at least an older teen. Whatever, let's continue to read. And yet it did excite her. Of course it did. It's one of these rape fanfics where the victim actually has fun too. Because we're trying to justify rape and act like it's all nice and fun. It's not. Mewtwo cupped Misty's breath underneath her bra with his paw and slowly began to massage it, rubbing against her nipples and feeling them harden. Mewtwo, Misty begged one last time. Please, stop. Mewtwo ignored her and continued his massaging. Now he slid his underpaw underneath Misty's bra and cupped her other breast, also massaging it. Her nipples hardened quickly to his touch, and she squealed even more in fear. Mewtwo finally grabbed the bra from the inside and yanked it off of Misty's body, revealing her bare chest along with her gorgeous breasts. He quickly recupped both of her breasts again with both of his paws and rubbed against them hard. Misty was now screaming, but she knew it didn't matter. Mewtwo bent his head down over Misty's left breast. He opened his mouth and slowly licked Misty's nipple with his long, rough tongue. Misty screamed again, but this time she wasn't sure if it was from fear this time. She wouldn't let herself think of it any other way, so she forced herself to believe that she was still scared of what was to come. She looked down at Mewtwo and watched him open his mouth wide and cover her breast with it. He was sucking on her nipple.
Oh no, you think?
Misty screamed again and tried with all of her strength to move away, but once again failed. She could feel his tongue on her breast, feel it move around and slid. She could feel him suck on her like a little baby. And oh, did it feel good. Wait, what? No, it did not feel good. This was horrible. Misty let out another squeal for no reason for it, but it just came out. Mewtwo's other hand was still massaging her other breast. The combination of him sucking on one breast and rubbing on the other caused Misty to wet herself a bit, but not much. She was still scared. Mewtwo moved across Misty's body until he was lying right on top of her. He pulled his mouth away from Misty's breath and replaced it with his paw. He moved his head up to Misty's head and placed his lips hard against hers, immediately shoving his tongue inside of Misty's mouth. Misty's scream was muffled by this and her eyes widened with shock. Was she actually kissing a Pokemon? Of course you are. I mean,
Was he actually kissing a Pokemon?
it's a Pokemon actually what is it? Of course I mean, of course, if he's gonna try to make it enjoyable for you, of course he's gonna be kissing you and stuff. And of course you're getting raped by a Pokemon. You're having sex with a Pokemon. Get it through your head. You're having sex with a Pokemon, which is the equivalent of bestiality in real life. Because in my opinion, Pokemon are super-de-duper animals with powers. That's what they are. Let's continue. Mewtwo's tongue moved all around Misty's mouth, both exploring and wanting everything he could find. Misty was forced to submit and allow her own tongue to enter Mewtwo's mouth. Mewtwo, having felt this, was shocked but also became wide-eyed, but gladly accepted it and continued all of his activities. Mewtwo's I would say something, but I'm beginning to sound like a broken record at this point. Mewtwo's long purple tail moved down to Misty's panties and slid beneath them. Misty let out another squeal, but it was also muffled by Mewtwo's mouth over hers. His tail lifted up Misty's panties and continued to lift them up until they were finally torn off of her. He then felt around with his tail for her hole. Once he found it, Mewtwo slowly dug his tail into Misty's wet and moist vagina. So is his tail his penis? Misty's eyes widened even more this time. Mewtwo's tail continued to move deeper and deeper inside of her, and she could feel it with a great detail. His tail was so big and wide that it almost seemed to hurt Misty, and her eyes began to water up. She let out another squeal, but Mewtwo's mouth once again muffled it. Half of Mewtwo's tail was consumed by Misty's vagina, and then he finally stopped. Let's take a quick screen cap look at Mewtwo and his very long tail. Wow, look how long it is. And you're trying to say that half of it was shoved up inside of Misty. You see, seeing the author said that he is, like, taller than Misty, that would not be able to go halfway up of her. Because she would be dead. Because he would be impaling her. It would be going beyond her vagina. It would be going into her stomach, and her ribcage, and her heart, and possibly up her head. People, think these things through before you write these over-the-top fanfics. Let's continue. Finally pulling his mouth away, Mewtwo pulled his tail out of Misty. She let out a loud scream, now finally able to hear herself. Mewtwo turned his body around so that he was now facing Misty's lower end, and Misty was looking straight up into his end. So he's going to do a 69, I guess. Mewtwo stared at Misty's vagina. It was almost completely wet thanks to his doing. It was raw, pink, and very inviting. Well, said Mewtwo, I do believe that I have done my job. Now do yours. Oh, I see. Misty was afraid of what he meant by that. She had never before seen Mewtwo's member, and now she wonders how she could have possibly missed it. It was long, thick, and very hard by the looks of it. Well, if it's already hard, then I would assume that she already did her job. It was pink with a slight hint of purple added to it and came out at the very base of his tail. Misty knew what he was asking for, and she didn't look forward to doing it. She opened her mouth wide and moved her head forward. Misty placed Mewtwo's penis into her mouth and allowed her tongue to move all over it, especially its top. She started bobbing her head up and down over Mewtwo's penis, letting her mouth and tongue move all around it. Mewtwo let out a long moan of pleasure from this and wrapped his tail around Misty's head, wanting more. Yes, yes, that's it, that's it. As much as she didn't want to admit it to herself, Misty was liking this. She also wanted more of Mewtwo, and from Mewtwo, the psychic Pokemon began to hump into Misty's mouth, pulling his erection in and out, in and out. Yeah, it got to the point where the cats felt the need to leave. I can't blame you. I wish I could join you guys, but I have to read the rest of this. His long tail pulled Misty's mouth even closer to her body, shoving Mewtwo's penis deeper into her mouth. At first, Misty began to choke from this, but quickly got used to it. She moved her tongue around Mewtwo's penis inside her mouth once more. While Misty continued to suck on his member, Mewtwo decided to try something out. With his bottom not moving away from Misty's head, Mewtwo simply leaned his own head down towards Misty's vagina. He opened his mouth and let his tongue slide out over Misty's lips. Misty wanted to scream again, but this time it was Mewtwo's penis that muffled her. With Mewtwo's penis in her mouth, it sounded like she was moaning, which seemed to excite Mewtwo even more. So Mewtwo continued licking Misty's vagina with his tongue, making sure to trace over her curving lips, soft bump, and even try to dig deeper into her wetness. Misty screamed again through Mewtwo's penis. She tried to get his penis out of her mouth as Mewtwo stuck his tongue into her, but Mewtwo's tail was still wrapped around her head and he thrusted his hips even closer to her, not allowing her to escape. Mewtwo placed both his paws over Misty's vagina and used them to open up the lips. Once he got them wide enough, he dug in his tongue again, going in as deep as he possibly could. He could taste everything inside of her, and he liked it. He found himself liking this mating ritual more than he thought he would. Misty moaned even louder again, and her body was trying to move. Mewtwo just kept moving his tongue inside of her, but then noticed that her vagina collapsed on his tongue. Mewtwo was shocked at this and tried to retaliate, but was soon welcomed with Misty's juices that gushed out onto Mewtwo's face. Quickly ripping his tongue out and covering his face, Mewtwo pulled his head away from the vagina. She seemed to be still gushing out just a little more, but soon stopped. As soon as her vagina stopped squirting out, Misty's body calmed down a bit more, and she became quiet with Mewtwo's penis still in her mouth. Mewtwo pulled his penis out of Misty's mouth, seeing that it was fully erected. Wow, I never thought, said Mewtwo. Well, this isn't over yet. But now I do believe I can finally start the actual insertion. Misty's eyes widened as she heard this. Once again, she attempted to escape, but to no avail. Mewtwo noticed her reaction, turned his body around, and looked at Misty face to face. Woman, I tire of your resistance, said Mewtwo, screaming inside of Misty's mind. I know I'm supposed to be screaming, but whatever. You love this feeling just as much as I do. So then why do you still intend to fight? Calm down or I'll force you to. And she did. First, she was too tired from the last orgasm to really put up a fight, and second, Mewtwo could still hold her down even when his mind was on other things. Misty was defenseless and could only submit. Mewtwo, seeing Misty's submission on her face, smiled. He leaned in towards her face and licked her cheek with his long, rough tongue, sending shivers down Misty's spine. Mewtwo placed his mouth on hers again, giving her one more deep kiss, then scooted on the bed and around her body. Misty was confused for a second, but then realized what Mewtwo was trying to do. Mewtwo got behind Misty's body, both of them still laying on the bed. Misty laying on top of Mewtwo, her whole backside against his whole front side. Mewtwo reached around and grabbed his full erect member and aimed it at the very top towards Misty's sex. He's gonna fuck me from behind, thought Misty.
No, you think?
God, Misty is a fucking idiot in this story. Soon enough, he did. Mewtwo, from behind Misty, thrusted its entire length inside of Misty. She gasped from what exactly she couldn't even tell, but it was like nothing she had ever felt before. Mewtwo pushed deeper into her, then slowly pulled out, then shoved back in, then pulled out, shoved in, pulled out, shoved in, pulled out. Wax on, wax off, wax on, wax off. Mewtwo continued his thrusting, moving faster by each thrust. He reached both his paws over Misty's breasts. Why do I keep on doing that? Breasts, not my fault, not the author's this time. On top of him and pulled her closer while squeezing them. Misty yelled out again. She could no longer deny it. She liked Mewtwo doing this. She wanted more. Misty grabbed one of Mewtwo's paws and held them closer to her breasts. More. She did not heard Mewtwo. Okay, she did not hear Mewtwo say anything, but just moaned in pure pleasure. His thrusts were now amazingly fast, sending excitement all over Misty's body and sex. She could feel her climax coming again, and she looked forward to it. She even started bouncing up and down with Mewtwo's movements to try to give herself more pleasure. Misty could feel Mewtwo getting excited as well. His member inside of her kept on getting harder and continued to contract while being inside. Then her climax finally came again. Misty's vagina quickly tightened around Mewtwo's member and gushed out her juices. Mewtwo quickly followed with his own ejaculation into Misty. Misty felt Mewtwo's semen flow into her, but it wasn't like a small, steady, warm flow, like how she always heard it would feel like. It was warm, yes, but Mewtwo's semen didn't flow into her. It shot into her. It felt like someone just turned on a water hose at full blast inside of Misty's vagina. Her eyes widened as the semen continued to gush into her, seeming to never stop. She could feel her stomach slowly getting larger from the size of all of the ejaculation. Your sexual organs do not link up to your stomach! The baby does not grow in your stomach! It looks like it's in that area, but no, it's not. It grows. When writing a fanfic about sex, be sure to do your research! Idiot! Idiot! Ha! Finally, Mewtwo seemed to be finished, and he pulled himself out of Misty, with white sperm spewed out of her sex, showing that it was overflowing. Mewtwo stood up and got off the bed. Misty just lay there unmoving. She didn't think that Mewtwo still had control over her, but she just wouldn't move. I know that it takes about 8 months for a female human to become fully pregnant. Mewtwo said, so I will come back in about 7 months just in case of an early birth. Misty still didn't move. She heard something, the sound most Pokemon make when using teleport. She moved her head over and saw that Mewtwo was no longer there. She still didn't move her body, but only her head. She looked down at her naked body and her stomach. Sperm covered her legs and her belly, and her belly was already growing in size. Was it growing from the overflow or from the life that was forming inside of her? She couldn't tell. The end. I could say that I have read worse when it comes to, humans and Pokemon fucking. The story, aside from some of the typos, was still well written. But I still hated it. Why? Because of a couple of things. One, it encourages people to go and have sex with animals, which is wrong. And two, it tries to act like that rape is okay if the victim is starting to enjoy it. Well, guess what? It is not okay! It's not okay to rape. And most of the time, the victim does not enjoy it. They don't. And even if they start to, that doesn't justify it. You are still doing it against their will. He raped her in this. Plain and simple. He had her paralyzed so she couldn't do anything. Even though she was continually to tell him to stop, he still kept on doing it. He was raping her, and it's not okay. And the sad thing is, some people probably got turned on by reading this. And after looking at the author's profile, how he was saying that there's a lot of people who want him to continue to write stories like this, something tells me that, yeah, they were turned on by it. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if we go and look at their reviews, if they are positive reviews. They're probably positive reviews. I mean, 63 reviews. It has 147 faves. So let's read some of these reviews. wrote, baby. Yeah, I think he enjoyed it. Gigatron 4761 wrote, you should have used the word come instead of semen. It flows better. Toki is right. Eliminator is, for the most part, a bunch of CU wannabes. Okay, let's read the review from the CU wannabe thing. Let's see. The person who wrote that review, they call themselves, where are they? Life Squasher. Let's see how bad they were. Well, your fic is in violation. It contains hardcore MA content which isn't allowed on the site. I suggest you fix your story by removing all the detailed description of sex sequences. Keep them very, very minimal. Failure to do so will get you reported. Life Squasher, founder of Eliminator. Whether or not they're part of the CU community, they are right. The story is in violation. The rules are there for a reason, people. The rules pop up on your screen and let you know, hey, you're breaking the rules. Because, I mean, that's what cracks me up about a lot of authors on fanfiction.net. And this person who left this review wasn't even being a dick about it either. They were just pointing it out. And they weren't even saying they were going to remove the story. They were saying that if you don't change it, it'll probably get removed or reported. But I digress. What pisses me off, people on fanfiction.net seem to think that the rules don't apply to them. They think, oh, well, if my story's good, it doesn't matter if it's breaking the rules. Yes, it does matter. You know, that you have fanfiction sites called adultfanfiction.net for a reason. This story being on that site would be perfectly fine. And, you know, frankly, I do think fanfiction.net should have, like, higher rated stories up, like, have, like, an MA section at least. But seeing they're not going to do that, then just take your story and put it on adultfanfiction.net. It's really not that hard to do. But I digress. I mean, a lot of the reviews, most of these reviews are positive reviews. Someone wrote, Angel of Darkness, that was blushes. I'm just going to favor it. And then you have the Guiltiness saying, oh, dude, that was simply awesome. I agree there should be a sequel, and I like how her pregnancy was. Anyway, please do make more. I'm looking forward to it. So, yes. Anyone who likes the story is admitting that they like the fact that some innocent woman got raped and they were probably turned on by it. Rape is not okay, people. It is not okay. I mean, just because Misty was somewhat enjoying it near the end, that doesn't mean it was okay. At the end of the story, it was quite clear to me that she wasn't happy with the result. She wasn't. She really wasn't. It's not okay. Frankly, I didn't like this story. It was well written in some aspects. but the whole setup for it was rather stupid. The author's summary about Mewtwo wanting to be immortal makes no sense, because having offspring does not make you immortal. It doesn't make you immortal. When you have a child, it's a different person. It's not you reincarnated. They may be similar to you in some aspects. Like, I have similarities to both my mother and my father, but that doesn't mean I am a reincarnated version of them. I am my own person. So, having children does not make you immortal. You fucking idiot. And most of the story was about the sex. I mean, it was overdone. It was just mostly about the stinking sex. There wasn't any need for that. The story could have had the potential of being, a lot better than it was, but no, it was wasted. And just the concept of it, ugh. Yeah. Well, I think I've said my say. I think most people probably don't like this story. Of course, I'll probably get the one yahoo who'll leave a comment saying,
Duh, I like the story, fanfic critic. You're being too harsh. You're being a stupid meanie, you stupid effing cunt.
well, you want to know what? If someone leaves a comment like that, I really don't give a flying fuck about your opinion. Well, I'm the fanfic critic. I read it, you listen, and I think I found the appropriate measure to end the show today. Hyper Beam!